Kenny Palmer, who is a Blackhawk pilot for the National Guard.
The first question that came to our minds was the helicopter hovered, according to the 911 audio, for like several minutes, and we didn't understand how you could hover, but you couldn't land. That part didn't make sense.
I'm confused.
Yeah, it was actually pretty confusing even to pilots trying to figure out exactly what happened. And it's the NTSB report will eventually come out, and that'll be the final say as to what went wrong. So you can only speculate. I imagine the pilot and what was his name, Mr. Robinson and Mr. Gentry, they wanted to live, so he was obviously doing everything he could to try to put that helicopter down safely. When they say that it had RPM troubles taking off, what I believe is they had a high side failure. It's where the engine just got stuck full open throttle. And so it's very important. The rotor RPM has to stay at a very specific RPM. It can't be too fast or too slow. So with a stuck open engine, your rotor's going to spin out of control. In my mind, if I put myself in that cockpit, he was at a high hover waiting for emergency personnel to get there because he figured when he puts it down, he would rather them be there rather than not, is what I'm thinking. And at a high hover, it takes a lot more power to hover an aircraft out of ground effect. So I believe with a stuck open throttle, that particular helicopter, the Schweitzer that he was flying, it pretty much takes all it's got to hover at that altitude. So that's what he chose to do, to stay there to try and control that rotor RPM. So he's not worried about the throttle being open. He's worried about that rotor. And after that, it says he tried to auto-rotate once the emergency services got there. So it seems like he saw them rolling in, and they decided to try the auto-rotational landing. That's where he basically shut the engine off, and it's like a car coasting down a hill. The air flowing through the rotor blades spins up the rotor blades and gives you enough energy that when you get near the ground, you can cushion your landing.
Right.
And then you land safely. And I can't speak for sure exactly what happened, but obviously they missed their mark, and they landed short of the runway into a ditch, and the helicopter just didn't make it.
And again, we're just on speculation here because we don't have any of the figures or the crash scene or something. So it was landing in the ditch that was...
It was just short of the runway.
Yeah, so perhaps if he'd been able to make it to the runway, it would have been a different outcome.
They probably would have been just fine, and that's the sad part.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is the really sad part of the whole deal.
There was also reports that there was areas of water around the runway. Would it have been safer for the pilot to take it down in the water instead?
It's debatable. I've actually had this debate. I told one guy, the Blackhawks are much huger and they come in much faster. The little helicopters, maybe, because you can come in much softer. A Blackhawk, I told the pilot one time, I was like, I would just fly right for the water. He's like, really? What happens when you get knocked out? You can swim away?
Yeah.
That's true.
Would you rather be unconscious on the ground or unconscious in the water? It's
not a winning answer, either one.
So it doesn't sound like this is going to be a pilot error. It sounds like the pilot did everything he could possibly do. It's more of a mechanical problem.
That will be determined by the NTSB.
And how do you miss a mechanical problem like that?
I don't know. It could have been something that just failed on short takeoff. Helicopters are wildly complex aircraft, and they're notoriously complicated to fly, especially single pilot under an emergency procedure. It's really difficult to say exactly what happened and exactly how the pilot reacted and why he did what he did. And it's difficult for me to say I'd do something different.
Right.
I don't know how flustered he was. I don't know. I mean, I might be a little nerve-wracked, too, if my rotor blade was trying to blow off my helicopter.